You can count on it. If something happened to me, you'd take care of Lisa and the girls, right? You can count on it, Mark promised. The double funeral was very emotional for everyone. The whole community, except for the members of Beta Shift who were on duty, came to the graveside service. Mark wasn't sure if people were crying more for Rodney and Donna or because this whole incident had brought the reality of what the world had become crashing home. Mark choked out the eulogy since he knew Rodney best. Brother Bob delivered a beautiful message, and his wife sang several songs. When she sang Amazing Grace as they were lowering the coffins into the grave, every eye was filled with tears. Mark felt that the service was nice under the circumstances and did Rodney and Donna justice. In fact, except for some idiot who drove by on the county road honking his horn like a nincompoop during the eulogy, the service could not have been better. That is, unless it wasn't needed at all. Jess held Timmy through the whole funeral, and Sam was holding Tommy's hand. Timmy quietly cried the whole time, but Tommy tried to be brave. At the end, though, he ended up with his face in Sam's lap, sobbing uncontrollably. She did her best to comfort him. When the service was over, people milled around, not sure of what to do. Mark was talking to Chaparro when one of Beta Shift's gate guards came up to him. He told Mark there were 2 men waiting for him at the gate. They were the ones who had honked their horn. Mark and Chaparro started for the gate with the guard. Jim and Gunny spotted them heading off and fell in behind them. "What's up, Karate Man?" Gunny asked. "I don't know. 2 men at the gate asked for me. I guess we'll find out quick enough." When the 5 men reached the gate, Mark could see that it was Greg Hardy and Rob Bowers. They were in an older Dodge diesel truck, which was hooked up to a trailer. The trailer was full of what looked like scrap metal. Mark walked up to the driver's side. "Hey, Rob, Greg, what's up?" "Mark, we apologize about blowing the horn. We had no idea you were having a funeral. We're really sorry," Greg explained. "It's okay. How could you know? What's with the scrap iron?" Greg feigned being offended. "We bring him a present, and he calls it scrap iron," he said to Rob. Rob played along. "I guess if he doesn't want it, we could just take it back to his old boss, Mr. Davis." "I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. If you really have any, that is," he said to get his own dig in. "So what did you bring me?" "Nothing much," Greg said, still playing as if his feelings were injured. "Just a windmill." "Really? You're kidding." "Thanks. Come on up to my house." "Man, this is great. I don't know how to thank you." "Can you stay for dinner?" Mark was talking rapid fire. "Jim, Gunny, they brought us a windmill. Can you believe it?" The 2 men climbed into the bed of the truck, and Greg directed Rob to Mark's house. When they got there, Mark sent David to get George. Other men started arriving at the Turner house as word of the windmill spread through the community like wildfire. The men were falling all over themselves, thanking the visitors, when David returned with George. When George saw what was in the trailer, a big grin spread across his face. He heartily thanked the men for the gift. The 2 gift bearers told him it was no problem, and they even offered to come back tomorrow and help put it up. Mark explained that he was going to Waco in the morning to see about his family there. Perhaps they could come later next week, he suggested. The mention of a trip piqued the interest of the men from Promise Point. They said they had some residents who wanted to get out to go get or at least check on their extended families, but they were worried about the safety of a road trip. Mark explained how they were employing a convoy to keep the risk as low as possible. Rob and Greg were fascinated, and Rob asked if he could come along to see how it worked. Mark warned him it could be dangerous and said he couldn't guarantee his safety. Rob assured him that he was well aware of the danger, but that it was a risk he was willing to take to see if this was a technique they could use. Greg said he'd still be willing to help with the windmill tomorrow if there would be anyone who wanted to get it up. George and Jim immediately volunteered. Several of the other men, including Chaparro, agreed to assist. They talked about the best place to put it, and George suggested that the Hernandez well would be a natural place. It was at the top of a hill and right at the end of the road that ran through the middle of the subdivision. They could pump water into a tank, if they could find one, and gravity feed water down the hill with hoses. Manny was agreeable to the suggestion. With that decided, the gathering broke up and everyone headed back home. Mark and his guests headed off toward the back porch for dinner when Manny asked for a minute with Mark. "My son-in-law, Ed, wants to volunteer to ride with you in the front tomorrow. He feels he owes it to you for coming to get him." "He doesn't owe me anything, Manny. We all went to get him, but if he wants to come, I won't stop him." "Can he shoot?" "I need someone who can shoot pretty well with me in the lead vehicle." "He can shoot. He was in the reserves for a while to help pay his way through college." "Great," Mark said. thinking this was the way to get out of having to listen to Joe griping about his personal problems all the way to Waco and back. I'll see you guys after the meeting, and we'll go over our game plan. After dinner and the meeting, the group bound for Waco gathered at Mark's for a rundown. He reminded everyone that the primary plan was to go up tomorrow, spend the night, come back on Sunday. Everyone needed sleeping bags and whatever else they would require to overnight. Mark went over the primary and 2 backup routes. He gave everyone the names of all of his family members and their addresses just in case they needed them, as they did when they went to Austin. Gunny reminded everyone what their jobs were in case of any hostile contact from either the front or the rear. They were adding another truck, but other than that, everything would work out as it had before. They had radio for each vehicle, but the old Marine made everyone go over the hand signals just in case one of the radios died. Murphy, Gunny explained, likes to show up when you least expect him. Gunny then made sure that Rob and Ed had weapons. Rob had a battle rifle with him, plus some kind of rig to carry his magazines in. He also had a pistol. Ed didn't have a rifle, but when he was told that he could borrow one of the AKs, he informed the group that the only weapon he was familiar with was the M16. They lent him Jim's AR. Gunny reminded everyone to bring plenty of loaded magazines. Mark assigned Joe to drive Jim's truck, thinking it would soften the blow of being replaced in the lead vehicle. He asked Dwight to ride with Joe and assigned Rob to shotgun duty with Manny. They would leave at first light. Rob asked if he could spend the night here and borrow a sleeping bag for the trip so Greg wouldn't have to get up so early to bring him back. Mark agreed and had him use the camper since his family had moved back into the house with cooler weather. With the meeting over, Mark got Rob settled in. Rob, what is that you have for your mags? It's a chest rig made by a company called SOE Tactical Gear. Can I look at it? Sure, Rob said as he handed it to Mark. Almost all of the rigs and slings we use at Promise Point are from them. They're very comfortable and built like a tank. Man, this is exactly what we need. Carrying magazines around in a pocket or pack is a real pain. Can you show this to Gunny tomorrow? You bet. Thanks. Sleep tight, Mark said as he exited the camper and headed for his own bedroom. When he got there, he noticed Jess had 3 candles burning in the room. At least one of them was scented. He stripped down to his shorts and sat on the foot of the bed. Getting some rest yesterday had helped his disposition some, but he still felt like the weight of the world was on his shoulders. Getting the windmill was a blessing, but now it had to be installed, and now they needed a tank to store the water in. He had to get this trip to Waco behind him. He still needed to help train the county militia, and he had to decide what to do with the Roberts boys. No one had mentioned them at the meeting tonight, but everyone was still quite subdued from the funeral. He heard the door open. Jess came in and smiled at him. What's the matter? She asked. Just thinking about all the things we have to get done, he answered. She climbed onto the bed and behind him and started rubbing his shoulders. She was a master at working his kinked-up muscles. He felt as if she was manipulating him to get what she wanted, but he was beyond calling her on it. Besides, the massage felt so good. His suspicions were confirmed a minute later when she asked him a question. Have you thought about the boys any? Yes, he answered. If she wanted to play him and to get what she wanted, why shouldn't he play along? It wouldn't change what he would ultimately decide, but if it got him some special attention, what did it hurt? But I need to think about it some more. Did you notice that no one said anything about them at the meeting? She queried as she dug her thumbs deep into his shoulders. Oh, that's good, he moaned. Yes, I did notice. To his delight, she continued for another few minutes. She stopped and asked the next question that he was expecting. When do you think we might make up our minds? She's good, Mark thought. He knew her mind was already made. She had said we to make sure he remembered it wasn't just his decision. He also knew it if she didn't like his answer, his special attention time would be over. He decided he had to tell her the truth. He really hoped that she liked it. Let me get back from Waco and we'll sit down and really talk it out. He mentally crossed his fingers. That sounds fair, she said. What the hell did that mean, he wondered. Was that the right answer or had he blown it? He couldn't tell from her reaction. She smiled at him and reached into the dresser. She usually slept in flannel pajamas, but Mark noticed that the ones she pulled out were silk. All right, he thought. He leaned back in the bed and watched as she removed her clothing. When she was down to her underwear, he noticed something. You've lost weight, he blurted out. She turned and faced him. Really? She ran into the bathroom. He knew she was going to climb on the scale. What an idiot he was. If she hadn't lost any weight, she would be disappointed, and his special attention time might go down to the drain. Why hadn't he just kept his big mouth shut? He heard the scale flop down on the floor with a metallic clank of inevitability. He listened as the spring wound up when she stepped up on the scale, and he could see in his mind's eye the dial sweeping back and forth, not unlike a Vegas slot machine. Would he hit the jackpot, or would he crap out? He heard her squeal, but didn't know if it was good or bad. She came running out of the bathroom like a teenager and leaped like Supergirl over the bed and landed to straddle him. She kissed him hard on the mouth. 7 pounds, she kissed him again. I've lost 7 pounds. Mark's special attention time had just shifted into overdrive.